The news on Wake Up Nigeria. I am Mike Messikeno. Now, the National Assembly, that's where we kick off this morning, where the Senate yesterday approved the removal from office the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, Danladi Umar, for alleged misconduct and improper behaviors of a holder of such position. More than two-thirds of members of the upper legislative chamber adopted the resolution after invoking Section 1571 of a 1999 Constitution as amended, permitting President Bola Tinubu to remove him from office for his inability to discharge his functions diligently. National Assembly correspondent Tijesu Adeoye reports.
The weight of wrongdoing by the CCT chairman Danladi Umar may have tipped the scales, prompting the upper legislative chamber to take a firm stance, seeking his removal from office.
Expressway.
Invoking Section 157, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which requires the consent of two-thirds majority of the Senate to prompt the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces to remove Yakubu Danladi Umar as chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal.
The Senate resolves to invoke and activate the constitutional provision as enshrined in Section 157, subsection 1 by forwarding an address supported by two-thirds majority of the Senate, which shall be acted upon by Mr. President for the official removal from office of Mr. Yakubu Danladi Umar.
By our tradition, leadership don't sign the register. So 74 plus 10 makes 84, and therefore we have gotten the required constitutional requirement to proceed.
As enshrined in our 1999 Constitution as amended, removing the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal from office as a result of acts of misconduct.
This brings to an end the reign of a man that held sway at the Code of Conduct Tribunal since 2011. It paves way for Nasara Kogo to assume office following his appointment by President Tinubu in July.
Adequate and decisive measures.
In another development, the Senate has urged the Nigerian military to maintain its presence and vigilance to stop the infiltration of violent terrorists known as Lakurawa in the northwest.
The Senate is aware that if timely, adequate and decisive measures are not taken, this group can spread its foreign reign of terror to other parts of northern parts of the country and beyond.
Also, the Senate has asked its Committee on Works to investigate the reasons behind the non-completion of repair works on the Odupani-Itsu Highway in Cross River State.
Observes that the highway has been in a state of disrepair for years, with significant portions uncompleted despite repeated promises and allocations in federal budgets.
The clerk of the Senate has been mandated to send a letter to President Tinubu to communicate the removal from office of the chairman, Code of Conduct Tribunal, Danladi Umar. Tijesu Adeoye, TVC News, Abuja.
Ukraine has fired UK-supplied long-range Storm Shadow missiles at Russian targets for the first time. The UK government is not commenting on the reports, but the Defense Secretary says Ukraine's action on the battlefield speaks for itself. The development is coming after it was confirmed that US-made a longer-range Army tactical missile system missiles had struck targets inside Russia days after the White House gave the green light for their use. Earlier, Ukraine says Russia is staging a psychological attack in spreading messages of a large attack after the US closes its embassy in Kiev over an airstrike threat. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden agrees to give Ukraine anti-personnel landmines, a defense official reveals, as the US steps up aid to slow Russia's advances. Then on to sporting stories. The president has called on the military across Africa to unite in addressing insecurity and other threats to the continent's unity and stability. He said this when he officially declared open the second edition of the Africa Military Games in Abuja. He says the event is a historic platform to foster unity, camaraderie, and military cooperation across the continent. The Games with the theme Enhancing Military Cooperation in Africa Through Sports marks a revival of a tradition initiated over 20 years ago in Nairobi, Kenya. Speaking during the opening ceremony of the Games at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, the president, who was represented at the event by his deputy vice president, Kasim Shatima, observed that no single nation can tackle its security challenges alone.
At the beginning, it seemed it was impossible. But we thank God Almighty for making it possible today. It is indeed with immense pride and great honor that I welcome you to the second edition of the African Military Games here in the heart of Nigeria, our vibrant and resilient capital, Abuja. Today we celebrate not just the physical prowess,